From a police standpoint, just showing you a picture or a snapshot, we had several subjects that we had called about that were intoxicated, and EMS was having to come and actually remove them because they were unable to care for themselves. We were working on a common law robbery which had occurred where a lady's purse was snatched. We had made an arrest there. We were also working with an arrest of a subject that was carrying a concealed weapon, which was a taser that he was using, sporadically in this area. It was after bar closing, probably around 2:15 to 2:10 in that area, when the crowd started to form. During that time frame, we basically used a vehicle and a loudspeaker to try to get the crowd to disperse. We tried to use a passive way of getting this crowd to move on, because of the potential for violence with the other related crimes that had already occurred in this area. That did exist. Basically, we're going to utilize passive tools first, and those passive tools would be verbal commands with loudspeakers from police vehicles. It may be officers that are typically walking through the crowd trying to get the crowd to move on. Depends on the nature of the crowd. When they group up and when crowds form in such a way where they're all tight knit, like you saw in that video, where they're jumping around, where there's a lot of movement, what you're looking at there is you're looking at the potential for a violent crowd. At that point, we're going to ramp it up just a little bit. We're going to use a very passive way of moving that crowd. We have a pepper spray dispenser. It's a little larger than the one we carry on our belt, but it is belt size. And that dispenser actually creates kind of like a gas type cloud. We don't spray anybody directly. We'll use that gas and spray it down onto the pavement in the area of that crowd, and that gas will actually rise. It doesn't affect anybody where they have to be decontaminated from this type of exposure. It's a very passive way of moving that crowd. Would I say we had our hands full? Yes, we had our hands full. Perception. If you look at my perception, which is basically what I'm talking about, all these things that are going on, this is a law enforcement perception. From a public perception that doesn't have any of this background information, the public perception of it, especially from a young person's point of view, you can see most of the folks in those videos there are young folks. From that point of view, that perception may be a little bit one-sided.